Joining us right now is Dr. Audrey Guskey. She is a professor of marketing at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She's a baby boomer, and she says that the times are not worse for Generation Xers. Why?
That's exactly right. No one's denying that the jobs are scarce. They are scarce. But when you look at the generation now, if they were a country in and of themselves, they would be in the top 15% of nations as far as wealth.
And if you look at older Americans, they would be above everybody else in earnings. Well, we are the poorest generation in this country. Let's not talk about other countries right now.
Is that accurate? According to your study, is this the poorest generation?
That is wholly accurate.
Well, we can't compare ourselves to other nations. We can, exactly. When we're talking about generations, we can't compare our generation to, Malaysia.
You look at the Generation X, and you consider the amount of money that they're spending. Their disposable income is more than any other generation.
Adjusted for inflation, that's not correct.
They're spending $135 billion. And as a result of that, they're looking for, obviously, higher-paying jobs to cover a lot of their expenses. A lot of
our expenses are
on yourself. A lot of them are on yourself.
Exactly.
The majority of people who are eating out, who are spending money on cosmetics, spending things on entertainment, are the generation.
And yet, we also have a higher savings rate than the baby boomers.
Well, that's
baby boomers in many cases are busy putting children through school.
What contributes to that higher savings rate?
Well, many of us are worried about Social Security, which is supposed to go bust right before I turn 65. And we have to save for our own retirement because the government isn't going to come and bail us out. And Medicare is going broke in 2002. If we don't save for our future now, the money's just not going to be there when we get there.
Yeah, I don't know anybody my age who expects that we're going to get Social Security and all those benefits.
We did a study last year that said that twice as many Generation Xers believe in UFOs than believe that Social Security will be there when we retire.
That much faith in it, yes.
I agree. First of all, I want to make a statement to something you said earlier. You said that we are materialistic. That is not true, okay? First of all, I'm an entrepreneur. I have 2 jobs. I work with various record labels. I also teach in various schools around the New York City area. And it's people like you that make it hard for people like us to be able to... Who are you talking to, Michael? No, this young man right here. To make it, it makes it hard for us to be able to be successful in the world because you're already downsizing me. You're already labeling me, saying that I can't make it. But that's not true. There's a whole lot of people. I can point them out.
I know. When I interview people, I realize...
My brother, is 19 years old. He's going to Hampton, Virginia College. Right now, he works for Morris Securities, and he also graduated from Cardinal Hayes High School with honors. So it is very untrue, and it's wrong for you to say that we are materialistic, because we're not. All right?
I'm not talking about specific...
that are not materialistic. They work hard. We have youth co-workers that work for the organization, also work for a nonprofit. They're here today, okay? Yeah. And they are working hard, and it's not fair.
We're going to hear from them. We're going to hear from them, but let's get a response. Here's the audience response. That's the audience response, which I can only presume means they agree with a lot of what she said. What's your reaction and response?
I think within any population there are exceptions to the rule. We're talking about a population at large.
What's the rule here? What's the rule here for Generation X? If she's the exception, then what's the rule? Yeah. Everybody's a loser?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I
think what's important to her is also important to us.
I did not say that Generation X are losers. I think they're whiners. I think they're intelligent.
What's the rule?
They're aggressive.
If she's the exception, then what is the rule?
The rule is people not like her, but people who are more interested in themselves. She is participating in the community and putting your own business aside. The fact is that she participates in helping other people within society. That's an important part, something which I think that your statistics show with the money spent on consumables separates the majority of Generation X from other people in society who work not only for themselves and not only for their own children, but for other people in society.
I wanted to get to know us a little bit more.
We have to take a pause. I'm sorry, I always hate to have to come in, but let's just take some time, take a pause. When we return, we will continue on the topic of Generation X, what they are doing to contribute. Are they slackers? Are they not? And get the audience reaction, too. We'd like to hear from you. Please be in touch. Back, everyone. We are talking about Generation X, and the audience, and during the breaks, and we talk and we try and find out what your sentiments and feelings or questions are. Many people have said, Generation X, does that mean we're crossed out? Generation X, what does it actually mean? According to Alden, it means that it is the 10th generation in this country. So that's why you got labeled X. I don't know whether that makes you feel better, but at least now you know. Okay? And now when we went away, we were talking about money and income and how much Generation Xers want and need to make. Melinda, tell us how they're spending the money.
Okay, first of all, for today's 25 to 34-year-olds, they have stepped up their expenditures an average of $11,000 a year, which is compared to what they had spent previously, or previous generations had spent. Now, the brokerage firm Donaldson, Lufkin, and Jeanneret estimates that economic stimulus from 20-somethings is boosting the nation's gross domestic product by nearly 1 percentage point, just from them spending money. They also say that the decline of good-paying jobs has hurt all age groups, especially Xers. Median weekly earnings for people 25 to 34 have fallen 13.6% in the past 15 years. So they're not making as much money, but they're spending more money. Now, what they spend it on, things like Xers spent $395 million on Jeep Wranglers and accounted for 38% of the model sales last year. They also, so it's not like they're buying cheap cars. Housing sales have also benefited from Generation X. This age group purchased $1.32 million, 1.32 million existing homes in 1991, compared to 1.53 million last year, which is an increase of 16%. So they're buying homes, they're buying furniture. Young shoppers buy an average of $1,100 worth of furniture a year versus $900 for the same age group a decade ago. So they're buying more expensive things, they're buying houses and big ticket items.
Audrey, what do you make of that? Interpret that, translate it for
That's
us.
exactly right. And one of the reasons that a lot of the Xers are living with their parents is to allow them a lot of luxuries and options, vacations, spending more money on alternative lifestyles that a lot of the other generations do not have. Makes an interesting point as far as marketers go, because they're a tremendous group and a tremendous audience that marketers are trying to tap into, because they've got billions of dollars. But how do you get into that? What type of advertising do you use? They find that they're very cynical. They grew up with MTV. They grew up with videos. So as a result, they can't be very easily sold as in past generations. They're very astute and very in tune to what's happening. So they want it the way it is. They want you to tell them the truth and give them specific information and facts about the products. They don't want any other garbage. They can really see through advertising. They're looking for things that are straight, and they're looking for things that are different and unique and are going to set them different. I think one of the big problems with Generation X is they found that they really didn't have an identity. They felt they were lost from the baby boomers, who were such a big audience and so many people, just as far as masses and numbers.
I'd like to ask a question of our Generation Xers who are on the panel, because I'm one of the baby boomer parents with Xer children. You don't blame us, but are there things perhaps that you identify that we did? You were raised in a very affluent time, in a time, whether you were from an affluent family or not, is another point, but you were raised in an affluent time. Did we do too much, give too much? Did we set you up to be received in the way you're now being represented?
No, the standard of living was just became higher. There was more to live up to as far as...
and the computer age, you know, it's different. The MTV age, it's just different. You didn't set us up. I mean, but it's a lot more fast. I mean, I'm sure at 14 we were like, we grew up faster, I think. We had to.
But don't you make the decision to turn on MTV? Don't you make your own marketing?
We're not blaming that. We're not blaming it. I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying that the standard of living has been raised. There are more, you know, things have gotten, technology has become more advanced. There's more, it's a little more complicated. You know, we've got, you know, the America Online now. There's a lot of stuff to now live up to. Right, which is fine, which we're not blaming. It's natural. It's a natural evolution. We're not blaming anybody. That's what...
To bring this down to a simple level, every generation hopes that their children do better than they do. And we are perhaps the first generation so far not to.
That hasn't been proven yet.
Well, no, for now, that's true. That is true for now. We are not doing as well as our parents did when they were our age.
That is also not true.
No, that is true.
Even though the real income is about the same as when I was getting out in the 70s.
In the 70s.
You see, the question I raised here is they're talking, again, I'll come back to an issue. This is strictly a money issue, and I don't think that money should be the defining factor of a generation. I think that a generation should be defined by its attitude, the way it treats people, and what it does for society.
One of the great things that have come out of all of this from Generation X is that they saw a lot of their parents, the boomers, fighting and struggling up the corporate ladder. A lot of their families broke up as a result of trying to struggle. And I think one of the refreshing things that we're seeing from this generation is that they're taking a different look at life and saying, hey, maybe the corporate world isn't as important to us, and what we really want to do is concentrate on our personal lives and our families.
Right, I have a comment
I find
to make.
That's great.
about what you just said. It's not just, you know, our generation is we're dealing with issues, not just money issues, but other issues. And some of the things I'm proud about is that our generation is more tolerant generation, is that we, as far as gay rights goes, and, you know, and minorities, and like all these kind of things that we're trying to be more tolerant of and more catering to, because we've been overlooked, or, you know, whatever. I think we're a more tolerant generation, and we're more accepting of different kinds of people. I think that's one thing that we've at least accomplished.
And it is another way, perhaps, of saying that Generation Xers are kind of looking at their baby boomer parents, and maybe you're getting tired of baby boom politics. When we come back, we'll discuss that. We're also finding that Generation Xers are looking for and finding new political party ways with some old views. Those old views may surprise you. We'll look at all of that when we return. We're talking about the population of young Americans, 18 to 34, the generation that has been labeled Generation X. We now know that it is labeled that because it is the 10th generation in this country, although those who have to wear this label still sometimes feel as if it is a negative connotation, that it's kind of crossing them out and saying that they are the unknown factor. Joining us right now from our Washington, D.C. studio by video call is Eric Stresbeck. Eric is 24 years old and the Libertarian candidate for the Virginia State Senate. He says that many Generation Xers are following his party. Eric, welcome. Tell us why. Why are they following your party?
They're following my party because the parties before us have left us with a mountain of debt, a drug war that imprisons people for nonviolent activity and costs $50 billion a year, while violent criminals are being released from prison to make up for the overcrowding. We're tired of two-party politics that zone and license us out of economic opportunities and cut off the bottom rung of the economic ladder. We're tired of interventionist politics that led to Korea and Vietnam and Somalia and Haiti. We want to go back to the Bill of Rights. We want to go back to the theory that Thomas Jefferson and the other founding fathers had, which was the government that governs best governs least.
Do you feel that the older generation robbed your generation because of the politics of our country? The existing politics of the country?
They created a social security system that ensures that a large portion of my paycheck I will never see again. If I could put that money into a private IRA, by the time I was 65, I'd be quite well off. They've insured a medical system called Medicare that's going to go bankrupt and is increasing at an exponential rate. It's one of the largest entitlement programs in our country. If I could put that money into a medical savings account that was tax-free, I'd be perfectly able to take care of myself. The government that has the power to give you everything you need also has the power to take everything you have. We need limited government. We need to get back to the individual being responsible for his or her own life. And individualism is also an important part of community. When government takes over the role that used to be reserved for communities and churches and families, it destabilizes our social life. It destabilizes our community life, and it leaves people with a very alienated feeling. And I think that
I can tell you that in New York State, the Libertarian Party, because I'm active in politics, I'm chairman of the New York County Conservative Party, which is a legitimate political party in New York. We recently helped elect a governor.
Well, so is the Libertarian Party.
The Libertarian Party has never been able to qualify as a party in New York because they've never been able to get enough people to vote on their line. You can get candidates by getting people to sign signatures, but to qualify as a party in New York, you have to get 50,000 votes out of the 6 million that are cast in the state of New York, and the Libertarian Party in this state has historically failed to do that for the last 20 years.
But it is,
the views that they express, but I don't know about New York. I can't tell you about New York. I can tell you about Virginia. I'm on the ballot. I'm in the media constantly. I've got a core group of volunteers. I'm online. Stresbeck95 at AOL.com.
Michael, if I could rephrase what I think I'm hearing from Eric is that maybe before the Libertarian Party was considered not a legitimate party, but now because of the numbers of young people...
the numbers are meaningless.
Okay.
15,000
We are the third largest political party in the country. We are going to be involved. We are the third largest political party in this country.
They're not a political party. It's a philosophical movement.
No, I'm sorry, sir. We are a legitimate political party. We're on the ballot for the presidential election in all 50 states. We're going to be our presidential candidate, Harry Brown.
I'm not going to argue all the debates. Legal politics and the legislation of election law with this gentleman who is not familiar with all the election laws.
We have state senate. We have state senators in New Hampshire and in California.
And I think that the issues that they represent are issues that young people are clinging to now.
And I think it's issues.
So is that why there's this third party? Do you feel, Alden, that there's a third party that's becoming more legitimate because it's an alternative?
No, I still don't think it's becoming becoming legitimized. I think their ideas are becoming legitimized.
I think the Republican...
And hopefully, and I believe that both the Democrat and the Republican parties are shifting glacially and slightly.
The contract for America has shown that with Republican leadership in this country, there has been addressing of issues that was never addressed
No, they believe in big government when it suits their needs.
The discussion of Medicare, the discussion of taxes, the discussion of government regulation.
And unfortunately, these are still just discussions.
Well,
the Republicans want government in our bedroom.
We have to break for just a moment. For those affiliates who have to leave us right now, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. For those of you who can stay, come back as we now get to the politics of Generation X. Is it that they want the existing parties just to change their ways and their thoughts, or is it that they want a brand new way of running America? Back with those thoughts in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. The politics now of Generation X. Let's go, first of all, to Melinda to find out what the political feeling and tone has been by way of how many Xers are voting. Are they going to the ballot or not, Melinda?
Well, according to the study of the American electorate, which is a committee that studies the voting public, they basically found out that in 1972, 42% of 18-year-olds turned out to the polls. That was the first year that 18-year-olds could vote. The last presidential election in '92 was the highest turnout since that time, which was up to 37%. So 37% of that age group voted. So more so than ever before, younger voters are actually turning up at the polls.
All right. So again, yes, go right ahead, Eric.
If I could jump in,
Please do.
I think the reason, if Generation Xers and young people and Americans in general are staying away from the polls, I think it's because they don't find a home in either the Democrat or the Republican Party. The left-right paradigm has failed. It's time for a new paradigm, and I believe that paradigm is contained within the Libertarian Party.
Valerie,
we are socially concerned.
Johnny, you can jump in because, Eric, I just want to say our poll just showed that Generation Xers have gone to the polls and are voting.
But they still don't go.
Valerie, I would hate for your audience to get the impression from these free market mavens that Generation X doesn't believe that government can do good. There are plenty of people. There are plenty of people from our generation who believe that the government has uniformly failed.
Yes, it has. It's
Let's look at where government. Let's look at government's success.
The IRS can freeze your bank account without a trial. It can seize your house. The DEA can do the same thing. The ATF is routinely behaving like a bunch of racist thugs all around the country.
So we can do better. To law enforcement entirely?
We can do better. Let's fix things. Let's get limited government. Let's respect the Bill of Rights.
Element of the political debate.
Bill of Rights is not a cafeteria. We have to respect all the Bill of Rights equally. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment,
if you
the
take
Fourth
a look
Amendment,
at the voting history, the presidential turnout is very high. I just did a study here in New York City of the voter turnout. It is always highest for the presidential election, but the drop-off from president to governor is dramatic. They're voting for president. They are not voting on the other lines for governors and for mayors, and in the, quote, off-year elections for Senate and the non-presidential or mayoral in this city, which is neither of those but an odd year, the voter turnout by the younger people is abysmal.
We have young people sitting here now.
It's the publicity of the presidential level.
But if we could, I'm going to try and get the other Xers, I'm sorry, just for the sake of identifying you, involved in this. You've just heard what's been said politically. Did you all vote? Did you vote below that presidential? You voted the full ticket?
Yes. And I'll tell.
So what is your response to what?
I think the problem is, you just said yourself that the presidential turnout was substantial and then it trickled down. Well, I think it's because of, when Clinton was going around campaigning, he made a point to identify with people our age. He made a point to bring out our issues. Nobody else makes a point to do that. We're more confused.
What about the Xers in the audience, too?
I don't think that
the Xers in the audience, who's an Xer here? 18 to 34, raise your hand. You voted. You voted. What's your response? Stand up quickly, please. What's your response to what you've heard about the politics of your generation?
Yeah, I think because I you may focus mainly on Clinton. You don't hear about the smaller politics, the mayors or whatever, and you're looking for the top help, actually. The president, the mayor in the city, it doesn't seem like you get things from the city. This is how I feel, and I'm in the city, so.
But you vote?
Yes, I do vote.
And can you embrace the politics of the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, or are you looking for something new?
No, I mean, actually, I think it's so much bickering, really. I just want to make a comment that I think the generation, this is why, like, the label is X, unknown, and it's separating us. Like, I feel Dr. Burns' generation, as a whole, should look forward to making us better instead of attacking. You know, what we're not good at and where we need help in.
Thank you.
Well, I can make a recommendation, and that is rather than spending, and they do participate in certain activities, but if they want to participate in voluntary activities, why not do it in the kinds of activities that don't benefit them directly? Yes, they're out there fighting for AIDS research because they're afraid they'll be affected by it. Yes, they will fight on some environmental
Americans are afraid they're going to be affected by AIDS.
I'm running for state senator because old-line politicians like you have eroded away our rights and left us
But what about cancer? What about helping people? What about, as this woman does, tutor inner-city students? What about helping people where you don't get a direct benefit? That is what real charity is.
That is such a generalization, and I really think that
When
you
you're
should
out
get
there
to
in
know more of us, because that is completely
How many do I have to know? 500,
well,
1,000?
then come to my house. I'll invite you for dinner, and we'll talk.
Let me introduce
completely
you.
inaccurate.
This is Michael's daughter, and she just turned 17 last week.
17 last week.
What do you say? They said you should get to know some kids.
Yeah, one thing, let me tell you, he knows more 20-year-olds than I do, and he's going out with them, and he's spending time with them. He knows what he's talking about, and he discriminates. He knows which ones are the hard workers, which ones are really willing to start from the bottom and work their way
Isn't
up.
that true of every generation? Isn't that
But
true
really,
of everybody?
I know, because I know people, and I've worked with people. I worked on the same political campaign that he did. You see these kids coming in out of law school, and they won't make photocopies.
But can I just say,
well, look, if we're talking about, if you want to talk about getting out into the community.
How much money have they spent on law school? I mean, are you asking somebody who's $100,000 in debt if they want to be doing photocopies? You ask me that? Absolutely not.
Well, you know, one thing is that everybody's got to make their own
Valerie,
I can understand that if I were in debt, I would want a high-paying job, but you,
let's go back.
You can't go right into it. It's going to take a couple of months. It may even take a year.
He may know all these young people, but I think it's impossible with his view on us already for him to be open enough to really meet these people and understand what they're about. You have such a closed view of what we're about, and it's inaccurate.
You said before that we're hedonistic. Yes, you said that we are hedonistic, that we don't care about anybody but ourselves, and I find that to be offensive, and I find it to be completely untrue. I would never say that about your generation, or I would never generalize like that, and I think you're doing us a great disservice.
I think one of the problems, unfortunately, is that baby boomers are to blame. I have a 20-year-old son at home, and from the Xer generation. And I think, by the way, we raised our children because we were working very hard developing our careers, and we've given you everything that we could possibly give because out of love and because we wanted to. And I think that's part of the problem now, that because you have been given so much, that you expect a lot.
Let me ask, why can you say that?
Yes, Eric is trying to jump in by video call, so let's give him an opportunity. Go ahead.
To suggest that Generation Xers won't do the hard grunt work on a political campaign is just nonsense. My campaign is entirely built around Gen Xers. My campaign manager is 31, my treasurer is 24, my policy director is 26, and we're doing a good, hard, grassroots political campaign from across the country. If you want to get involved, 800-219-6316. We're talking about limiting government. We're talking about returning education rights to parents.
Let's go back to community outreach for a second.
Compensation. We're talking about real issues.
My colleague was talking about community outreach. Okay, I got my MBA at the Wharton School in Philadelphia, possibly the largest group of fiscally conservative, self-serving people you will ever meet. Okay, every year, more than half of our school goes out a few weekends a year and rehabs houses in West Philadelphia. Okay, that doesn't serve me. That may serve the community long term, but I'm not going to be there.
That's part of the Wharton education program.
No, it isn't part of the Wharton education.
This is organized by students. Every good thing that that we're doing, oh, it's to benefit you because you can get AIDS. Oh, it's because of that.
I don't see how you could possibly be meeting young people with that idea.
I think there's too many exceptions that have come up and too many situations that have come up that have contradicted your standpoint.
Anecdotally, I can prove anything. We've been looking at statistics, and that's the numbers we have to work with, is the statistics at large, not the exceptions.
Why don't you start looking at the individual?
We have a call from Pennsylvania. Let's take time out here for a moment. Benji, you've been real patient. Thank you so much for calling. Do you have a question or comment?
Mrs. Host, I don't know what your name is.
I'm Valerie.
Valerie.
Yes.
Hey, my TV network isn't carrying you guys anymore, so if there's any interesting facial expressions, you have to tell me, okay? Because I can't see you guys.
Thanks for calling anyway. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have a couple comments.
Are you an Xer yourself?
Yeah, and first of all, I love that name. I think it's a hip name. We're not the 10th generation, though.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not. We're either from when the colonists came, we're either like the 23rd, or if you go from when the country started, we're about the 13th. I mean, just multiply it.
Okay, we'll do the addition. We'll do the
20
addition.
years a generation.
All right, we'll do that addition, but we want to get to your question or comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, to the females on the panel, I don't think you are whiners. You're real cute, but you are coming across as whiners. But we have...
No, wait, Benji, can we just say one thing? We're just saying we don't mean to, we're not whining, but what every generation has...
Oh, yeah, you are.
No. Listen,
I have a really good point to that.
Every generation has their problems. Every generation is aware of them. Because
so what have you done to fix it lately?
Because we're trying to deal with them. We're not placing blame. We're saying these are our problems, and to be silent would be ignorant. To deal with it is not whining, it's dealing with it.
Okay, wait, what have you...
She can, I'm sorry, Audrey? You can say that, yes, we're partially to blame, we're the baby boomers, we're partially to blame. She can put the blame on herself. But as soon as we say, well, you know, you really did come before us and you did have some kind of, you know, responsibility for this, we're whining. Because we're the 20-something on the panel, that's why we're whining.
Listen, we're going to be blamed for something in the next generation, I'm sure. But the issues that we're talking, when we have kids, I'm sure we're going to make mistakes and we're going to have to, you know, front some of the blame.
Hey,
but we're not throwing it on anybody else. We're responsible for ourselves ultimately, and we know that. We're not blaming anybody else.
I think one of the problems is that you really don't have a cause or a problem. I mean, we grew up with Vietnam. There was depression,
That's what
wars.
I said before. Is that things to identify with.
Exactly.
And now we're trying to find our identity.
Yeah, we're trying to redefine
all these things that, you know, that
But earlier you asked us to help you find a cause. I think it's the responsibility of your generation to find some cause.
For sure.
That's not what I said.
First of all, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Benji very much for your call. Audrey, I didn't mean to step on what you were saying, but if we just needed to have an opportunity to hear you, I missed it. So what was it that you said?
I want to bring up another point, too, the work ethic. And I think this goes all along the lines of what you have seen your parents doing as far as putting their lives into their careers. And I think a lot of you tended to resent that. I know as far as women, there are differences between the baby boomer women and the Xer women. You don't look at us as role models, which is unfortunate. You look at us as career women and have neglected our families.
Yeah, you're wrong. We do look at you as role models.
Absolutely correct.
You, in the 80s and the 70s, started single-parent families, mothers. We have enormous
My mom worked
respect for
2
you.
jobs. I am so respectful of single career moms.
Don't underestimate our respect for the previous generations. We're not saying we don't respect you. We're saying we're just trying to deal with what's the consequence of the previous generations.
Heather and Jeanette, I have a question for Heather and Jeanette.
Oh, why don't you pose the question and then they'll answer it after our break. So what's the question, Eric?
The question is, what have you done about these problems lately? What activism have you undertaken to fix these problems that you've been complaining about? And I'd like to hear about it.
And we'll get the answers to that when we come back. Please make sure you return. Welcome back, everyone. What I really love about this forum is the opportunity for us to get a real conversation going, and so that maybe some myths can be dispelled. Maybe people just haven't had an opportunity to talk one-on-one. I have to tell you, Heather and Jeanette, it is refreshing for me as a parent to at least hear you clearly say, we aren't blaming you. Just listen to what we have to say. And that is very refreshing, and we are listening. When we went to the break, Eric had posed a question to those of you on the panel who are in this 18 to 34 bracket. So what are you doing to make a difference, to make sure that everybody knows you weren't whining?
Okay. Just a list of things. Basically, I've volunteered all over the place. I've done walks, Walk America, Juvenile Diabetes Walk. I give cancer research every single month. I give money. I volunteered at a soup kitchen for homeless people. I talked to a man who's homeless in front of my building, and I'm constantly trying to help him. I rally my friends to be political, to care. I am constantly preaching about safe sex to my friends. If I find out any of them aren't being safe, I get very angry and we have talks about it. I think I'm doing a lot to change this world.
Jeanette?
Excellent.
Me too. When I was 13, the first money I had, I donated to Covenant House before I realized that guy got arrested for child molestation, but I didn't know at the time. I mean, from there, I've been involved in, Heather and I have been involved in an interactive theater program where we can use our talents. You know, we're both actresses to get involved with the community and find out what problems are and deal with that. We do that on a volunteer, basis. There's nothing in that for us. There's no reciprocity. It's completely one way. I don't agree with what you were saying at all before.
Okay. Alvin?
Well, for starters, I cook for homebound AIDS patients. Also, through Third Millennium, as far as politically active, Eric, I invite you to the Capitol tomorrow to see me at the press conference. We're going to be releasing some data on Social Security by congressional district, and I think you'll find some of the findings very interesting.
Okay. Jerry from Tennessee, thank you very much for calling. A question or comment?
Hello, Valerie.
Hi.
I'd just like to say, the kids that's on there, you know, I'm 48-year-old, and I've got two daughters about their age.
Uh-huh.
And I think the main thing is they should be listened to. Now, I noticed when they were talking that a lot of these other people were butting in and cutting them out. But if they would listen, instead of trying to figure out what's best, you know, and bad mouth, I think the kids have got a bad time today because of the job market. When I came out of the service in '68, we could get a job that had 100% insurance, good benefits. Now they've got temporary services. You don't start at the bottom and work up. You start at the bottom and work for a while, then you go back to another temporary service. That's
Jerry,
what the kids today have got to look forward to.
Thank you for calling, and that suggestion we're going to take right now to the audience. We have some Generation Xers and even pre-Generation Xers. Stand up, comment.
All right, I would like to say to the man Scott that was on the screen that I don't think that these ladies are whiners.
To Eric. To Eric?
No, it's to Scott.
Okay, to Scott. Oh, all right.
That I don't think these ladies are whiners. I think that they're trying to get their point across. And I think one of the points is that all the things that went on in the 60s and the 70s, it got worse as the years went on. And I hope that all y'all realize by the year 2000, things is going to be 10 times worse than it is now. And y'all, I just want to let y'all know that they're not whining, they're making a point, and the point is true.
I think that we, the people who are being labeled as Generation X, should start participating more in community activities, political, and I agree with that guy over there, with his opinion. I agree with him 100%.
With Eric?
Yeah, with what he's saying.
Okay. What do you feel, what you've just heard? Any reaction from the panel here?
Well, I think that, first of all, these young ladies are obviously not typical of their generation, and I don't think that any of the five of us sitting here are typical of our generations, because probably if we were, we wouldn't be here today discussing these issues. So I think we have to look, again, statistics.
I don't agree with you. I don't think that I misrepresent my generation. I think that... I
have a question for the two sisters, for the two ladies there. Are y'all both employed right now? Are both of you employed?
Yeah. Yes.
What type of work do y'all do?
I'm a theater ticket broker.
What about you?
And I work in the theater as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions here before we...
And by the way, working since I was 15. Thank you very much.
Excuse me.
Because statistics say 50% of Generation Xers live at home with their parents. I want to know why.
I can address that. And a lot of times it seems to be an economic issue, but it is not. It's out of choice. They do it because it gives them alternatives. They can save money, they can travel, they can stay in school longer, they're postponing marriage. So it's not an economic issue. They're doing it. The boomerang generation, they're coming back because it gives them alternatives as well.
And we're going to be coming back too, and we'll have some more comments, some thoughts, solutions, resolutions. I like the fact that we now have a laundry list of what young people are trying to do today. Perhaps those of you who didn't have an agenda before, maybe you're getting one now. Join us. We'll return in a moment. Welcome back again. More information just to give us some food for thought. Let's go to Melinda, who has more details on Generation X.
This actually may surprise you. About 66% of Generation X high school graduates enrolled in college, which is more than any other generation in U.S. history. Generation Xers work 3.6% longer each week than the national average, and a 1993 study by Marquette University and the University of Michigan found that entrepreneurs from the ages of 25 to 34 created 70% of all new businesses and startups in 1993.
Oh. Audrey, translation, what this statistic means.
I think it's very exciting. I think there's a very promising future for the Xers. What we're going to be seeing in 20 years down the road, there's not as many Xers as there are boomers, and so because the numbers are smaller, more job opportunities. When you think about the technologies that are available out there in the changing world, I think they have a lot to look forward to, and it's going to be exciting for us.
Mike from Iowa. Yeah, that's worthy of applause. Mike from Iowa, do you have a question or comment?
Yes, I have a comment.
Okay.
I disagree with Generation X being labeled as spoiled and whining. I come from a very blue-collar background, and I feel that a lot of the blue-collar people are left out of the discussion. Most discussions on this issue are usually assembled of people that come from a higher-class, white-collar background that are struggling to find employment with corporate America. I'd just like to let the people know out there, there's a lot of us hard-working, blue-collar Generation Xers that, you know, through hard work and high standards and morals, you know, we can get ahead. We're a generation with a lot of potential, and I just think people need to know that.
Mike, thank you very much. You expressed yourself very eloquently. And it really comes back to, even though we were saying we don't want to deal with labels, there is a label that's been laid on there. And that label, unfortunately, for some people who don't have an opportunity to meet you, talk to you, they just read you by your label. How do you change that? Part of it is what? Community involvement?
Well, I think social action, political action. You know, right now Generation X and Slacker are being used interchangeably.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to be able to change that is if we wake up the government. And in 2 years, when we're the largest voting bloc in the nation, we start voting in large enough numbers and vote these people out or make them listen to us, then finally this veil will be lifted.
Not 2 years. There's elections coming up in November. Why don't they register and participate in the local elections? Because in reality, what takes place at the local level, the town council, the city council, the mayor, has a greater impact on your day-to-day life than in many cases does the President of the United States.
Amazing that a conservative doesn't believe in the trickle-down theory.
Let's go to Washington so that we can get some final thoughts here. It really has been set up for you, Eric, because your choice has been to make that political process change and fit the needs of your generation and the rest of America. What are your final thoughts with regard to your generation?
November 7th, we're going to register more Gen Xers in my district to vote Libertarian than in any other election previously in Virginia history. We're going to look backwards to the ideas of Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and the other founders of our country to limit government, to ensure that government stays out of our wallet and out of our bedroom, and we're going to protect the internet from censorship, and we're going to move forward because there is hope. We can reclaim the American dream. That's why Eric Strezpek's running for state senate in the 25th district. 800-219-6316. Thank you.
And the political process, you see, is working regardless of the generation. Thank you very much, Eric. And Donnie, your final thoughts with regard to this?
Just one, which is that the problems that are confronting America today are intergenerational, and just looking at economics, looking at politics, and how it affects just this generation doesn't tell us a lot about the state of society today. We need to adopt an intergenerational approach. We need to solve the problems in the labor market, not just how they affect 18 to 34-year-olds, but how they affect Americans as a whole.
Okay, Heather.
Basically, I think talks like this bridge the gap, and I think they're really good, and maybe we can bridge the gap a little bit further, and maybe anybody who's out there, any supposed slackers, will get out and get involved.
Okay. Jeanette?
The issues that we were raising today are issues of our generation. Every generation has their set of issues. By dealing with them and by trying to get over them and move on, we're not whining, we're just dealing.
And if we could get a final comment, Audrey, because Alden and Michael
I just wanted to add, as a marketer, I'd take partial blame for labels, because marketers are well known for labeling different products and obviously people. But instead of Generation X, maybe let's call it Generation Next. And
very good. I would like to thank you all very much, those in video call from Washington, D.C., those here in our audience.
Valerie.
And also to welcome our new viewers on multimedia cable in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Thank you so much for watching NewsTalk Television. And let's end on that thought. This is a conversation we've had today about Generation Next. It's in the news, and if it is, we're talking about it right here.